Naruto woke up with a huge smile on his face as he opened his eyes to see, placed on the small wooden box that served as his bedside table, the slightly battered and scratched Hitai 8 that confirmed beyond all doubt that the events of the previous night hadn't been a dream. He was a ninja. And in just 1 week, a mere 7 days, he would be assigned a team of his own, letting him prove just how totally awesome he was. As long as he wasn't teamed up with Sasuke, that broody bastard. Naruto shook his head to clear away the depressing thought. Taking a deep breath of morning air, and he really needed to get that window fixed, he bounced out of bed, before scampering into the bathroom to shower, then he paused and created a clone. "Head to the kitchen and make me some breakfast," he commanded, and the clone nodded. "Okay, but hurry up." Naruto stuck his tongue out at the clone, then turned the tap to switch on the shower. Shedding his pajamas, he jumped into the shower cubicle. "Cold." The clone snickered as it switched the kettle on. Naruto finished tossing on his orange jacket. Chicken ramen." He smiled, then he paused. "Hey, how did I know that?" For a moment, Naruto frowned, then he shrugged. Maybe I smelled it." Whatever. Time to eat." Pausing to adjust the small sigil on his shoulder, Naruto bounced into the kitchen to devour the rameny goodness awaiting him. Itadakimasu. The morning was bright and cheerful as Naruto closed the door to his apartment. Unlike normal, he didn't lock it, a fact that was explained as the door reopened and another Naruto stepped out, this one holding a bag of rubbish in its free hand. "We'll have the apartment tidied up by the time you get back, boss." "Good." Naruto nodded, mentally noting how useful Kage Bunshin were. Now if there was only some way to get some decent food. Blasphemy. The clone gasped. "Ramen is the food of the 1,000 kami." Naruto chuckled in agreement, then turned to continue his interrupted journey. "I'm going to have a walk round, maybe visit the old man to ask who's on my team, and why am I even telling you that?" "You're me." The clone laughed. "We'll get things done for you. Good luck with our team, maybe Sakura-chan will be on it. As long as the team isn't, she might stop hitting us." "That would be amazing," Naruto said dreamily, then he turned and walked towards the stairs. "Wish me luck, Mies." "Good luck." 3 of the clones chorused and Naruto left, chuckling. 3 hours later, his good mood had almost vanished, although the average, non-ninja, observer wouldn't have been able to tell. Whenever he walked near a crowd, he would hear whispers along the lines of, "How could they let IT become a ninja?" or, "It won't be long before that thing snaps and goes on a killing spree." As well as several other comments which showed that they had known all along about his burden, but had put the same interpretation on it as Mizuki had. Turning, Naruto strode through the entrance of the Hokage Tower and scampered up the stairs. "Heya Gigi," he called, and his adoptive grandfather looked up from the paperwork he was perusing with a smile that lightened Naruto's heart. "Naruto, it's good to see you," he said as he waved for Naruto to take a seat. "So, what brings Konoha's newest genin into my office today?" Naruto grinned at the reminder of how he had attained the long-desired rank. "Well, I was wondering who was going to be on my team," Naruto admitted. "I'm sure you just love to give me the hat and all, but even I know that's not gonna happen yet." "Very true," Hiruzen agreed gravely, although Naruto caught the gleam of laughter in the old shinobi's eyes. "The teams are still being arranged and the Jonin senseis assigned to them." "Cool." Naruto breathed, then he frowned. "So that means that I can't tell you what the teams are right now," Hiruzen supplied. "You know, in just 1 week you'll know which team you are going to be assigned to and who your Jonin sensei will be. As long as I get an awesome one, it'll be cool," Naruto exclaimed, then he blinked as a blur deposited even more paperwork on Hiruzen's desk. "Why don't you head out to get your official photo taken for the files?" Hiruzen suggested. "And tomorrow, after you bring the photo and I approve it, I'll take you out for some celebratory ramen." You're the greatest, Gigi. Naruto exulted, his previous good mood fully restored. One awesome pick coming right up. Hiruzen laughed as Naruto bounced out of the office, then sighed as he looked at the top sheet of paperwork. So, how do I find where to get the photo? Naruto muttered to himself as he walked down the main street. Naruto. Naruto looked round to see who had called him, his gaze coming to rest on a familiar dark-haired girl who was staring at him from beside a taller, red-eyed woman with longer midnight black curly hair. A brief moment's thought brought up the younger girl's name. Heya, Hinata. Naruto called as he jogged over, grinning hugely as he pointed at his Hitai-8. I made it. I'm a ninja too. I heard about that. The taller woman said, and Naruto gave her a curious look. I'm Jonin Yuhi Kurenai. Pleased to meet ya. Naruto replied. Genin Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage. Hinata giggled, then gave a small bow. Probationary Genin Hyuga Hinata, honored to meet you. Wait. Naruto said, pro bar, pro B, pro banana, a what's it Genin? I thought you passed. The others who passed the academy exam are all currently probationary genin, they will become full genin when they are taken as students by a Jonin sensei. Kurenai explained. You were granted a field promotion, so even if you don't get a Jonin sensei, you'll still be an official genin and able to take missions. Hinata gave Naruto an odd look and his grin grew wider. Yep, I'm awesome. So, what ya doing? We don't get teams till next week, so why are? We are going to be working on my chakra control. Hinata said quietly. I need to build up my reserves. Chakra control. Naruto groaned. That's my weak point, I blew up the leaf last time I tried. It sounds like you almost certainly have too much chakra. Kurenai mused. If you wish, I can teach you a new exercise that should be fairly easy for you, then you can work your way back down to leaf floating. So, training? Naruto exclaimed. Count me in. If that's okay with you, Hinata. I mean, she is your teacher, right? It's fine. Hinata squeaked, turning red, and Naruto grabbed her shoulders. Hinata, you're turning red. Are you getting a fever? Let me check your temperature. Arg. Kurenai. Hinata's collapsed. She'll be fine. Kurenai smiled. However, if I can ask a favor. Naruto gave Kurenai a quizzical look. Favor? Well, it's a bit of a walk to the practice grounds. And this is where we are going to practice. Hinata heard as she regained consciousness to find herself being carried on someone's back. For a moment, she thought that she was being carried by Kurenai, but the hair against the side of her face was all wrong for that. Wow, cool place. Naruto's voice said, and Hinata frowned mentally. It wasn't Kurenai who was carrying her and Naruto was Nerb. Hinata's thoughts hiccuped to a stop as she realized that it was Naruto who was carrying her, but before she could do anything, Naruto was speaking again. Let me put Hinata down. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A wave of chakra seemed to flow through Hinata, engulfing her in a feeling of protectiveness, then she heard Kurenai gasp. Oh, how did that happen? Naruto asked, and Hinata opened her eyes, glancing round. To see herself staring back at her from the back of another Naruto. Good heavens. Kurenai breathed, her gaze switching rapidly between Hinata and her unexpected clone. I know that the Kage Bunshin technique duplicates what someone is carrying, but to duplicate an entire person. Hinata took advantage of Naruto's shocked stillness to lower herself to the ground, an action copied by her clone. Both girls glanced at each other, then looked down, tapping the tips of their forefingers. Well. Kurenai said slowly. I see that Hinata's clone has her mannerisms. Clone Hinata, what was the last flower you pressed? A bell flower. The clone replied, and Hinata nodded in agreement. So, you have Hinata's memories too. Do you know what Naruto had for breakfast? The clone shook her head and Kurenai hummed thoughtfully. I've never seen this done before, she finally admitted, but it would seem that you've somehow cloned Hinata as a byproduct of cloning yourself. Even having just found out about it, I can tell you that once word spreads amongst the Jonin, you'll become the favorite support ninja in the village for A and S-ranked missions. Which means we need to keep this quiet, or enemy shinobi will target you specifically in order to stop you boosting our forces. I don't get it. Naruto admitted and Kurenai sighed. Sit. She commanded, sinking to the ground and the others followed suit, the two Hinatas descending gracefully while the two Narutos simply flopped into a seated sprawl. Now, about your potential as part of a team. If you manage to learn how you cloned Hinata, you could potentially do it for an entire group at once, thus doubling their numbers. Repeat it enough times, and Konoha could field an entire army comprised purely of A and S-ranked shinobi, each at full power and with all their abilities. Imagine having a dozen Hokages step onto the battlefield with another dozen in reserve. No enemy would choose to stay around at that point. Yeah, Gigi showed me some of his skills when I was younger. Naruto agreed. He's awesome. And that is why we need to keep it a secret for now. Kurenai stated. If I can see that potential, so can Konoha's enemies, and until you get strong enough to defend yourself against enemy Jonin, we need to keep this skill quiet. So, I can't use clones? Naruto asked and Kurenai sighed at the proof that he had missed the point she was trying to make. You can use as many clones as you want, just don't clone anyone else unless they already know about it and have given permission. Kurenai stated. The two Narutos turned to look at Hinata and her clone. I don't mind. One of the Hinatas said quietly. On the plus side, you using clones can help with your training. Kurenai added and both Narutos stared at her in incomprehension. Huh. Indeed. Kurenai said, rising. Naruto, stay here. Clone Naruto, come with me. Naruto watched his clone follow the Jonin to the edge of the clearing before they vanished into the trees, then a memory popped up in his mind. I'm going to learn how to walk on water. Awesome. How did you know that? Kurenai called as she walked back towards him, his clone nowhere to be seen. You told me. Naruto said blankly, then he paused. How? I was here, but you told me behind that tree. I don't understand. I told your clone, then dispelled him. Kurenai explained as she reached them. When you dispel a Kage Bunshin, you get back all their memories, in this case, me explaining what the first exercise for you will be. Naruto stared at her for a moment. I think I get it. So, everything they learn, I get back. Kurenai nodded. Yes, but too many memories at once will hurt your brain or worse, so we'll work our way up slowly. I did several hundred clones when I beat up the traitor. Naruto supplied. And how long did it take? A few minutes. So a few minutes times 100 or so clones is maybe 4 or 5 hours worth of memories, and since you were concentrating on one thing, most of those memories will have blurred together. Kurenai mused. Create, for clones for now and we'll train for an hour before dispelling them so you get their memories. That should be fairly safe and we can work our way up to higher numbers. Yay, training! Naruto shouted as he flipped to his feet and made the clone seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Chapter 2. Training of a new genin. Kurenai shook her head in bemused amusement as she looked at her audience. After explaining to Naruto, in very simple terms, the memory transfer function of the Kage Bunshin and how it could be used to help training in ninjutsu and in recon, she had demonstrated the water walking technique and Naruto had sent a quartet of clones to practice. Her next demonstration, tree walking, had left Naruto gobsmacked for a moment before he had generated another 4 clones and sent them to practice, joined by the accidentally created clone of Hinata, while Kurenai covered some of the basic knowledge that Naruto had somehow failed to acquire during his days in the academy. So, now I've explained the difference between shinobi ranks and official ranks, do you have any questions? Iruka-sensei is really an A-ranked shinobi? Naruto burst out and Kurenai nodded. Yes, he is. If he wanted to put the effort in, he could be S-ranked, but he is perfectly happy teaching future generations of shinobi. And most ANBU are B or sometimes C-ranked, while the Chunin who kept trying to chase me are normally C-ranked. Naruto mused. No wonder Iruka-sensei was always able to catch me after my pranks. I thought I was getting rusty or something. Being able to hide from your pursuers while wearing bright orange is quite impressive. Kurenai allowed. If you ever went for darker colors, you'd be almost impossible to track for anyone without a Byakugan. In fact, Kurenai rose from her kneeling position and cast a quick genjutsu that projected a compulsion to gather round. The 8 clones ran up from the trees and lake, forming up around her. Now, real Naruto, with me, but make another dozen clones for this. Excellent. All Naruto clones, head into the trees, no more than 200 meters distance from the edge of the clearing. I want Hinata and Hinata to take the role of Hunter Neens, find and dispel the clones. This way, both of you get training. Naruto, you get training in escape, evasion and survival, while Hinata gets training in tracking and attacking. Hinata's, a light Juken strike will dispel a Kage Bunshin. Naruto's, try not to make it easy, since the harder the training, the better it is. Begin. The clones scattered, the 2 Hinatas in hot pursuit, and Kurenai looked at Naruto. While we're waiting for the exercise to finish, do you remember how to dispel genjutsu? Naruto stared at her blankly. Hinata was impressed. She had thought that Naruto's bright orange trousers and jacket would be easy to spot, but his natural stealth skills countered the obvious color to an incredible degree. In addition, Naruto acted in ways that she had never encountered in her clan's tracking exercises before, ways that she would have to use herself in future exercises. He wouldn't balance on branches, he would hang underneath or cling to the trunk. He could squirm through low bushes without disturbing a single leaf, or dart across open spaces fast enough that if she blinked at the wrong time, she would never know he had been there. Byakugan. Hinata blinked as she heard her clone activate their dojutsu, then she nodded in understanding. She was barely a D-ranked shinobi in her own right. If she was to catch the elusive clones, she needed to use every single advantage that she had. Horse, tiger, boar, hare, rat, dog, horse, dog, hare, rat, boar, snake, Byakugan. The world shifted around her and her eyes widened as she saw one clone crouched in the bush just behind her, a bush that she could have sworn was empty. She got another. Naruto reported as he tried to suppress his chakra again, and Kurenai cocked an inquisitive eyebrow at him. Kick to the shoulder. Felt odd, though, more like that hand strike of hers. I didn't know that she could use Juken through her feet. Kurenai mused. And I think that was the last one. Naruto added. I didn't even see her that time. Just a poke in the back of the neck. She's good. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Hinata said as she emerged from the undergrowth. I'm glad you think so. The second Hinata said, and Naruto smiled. You did amazing, both of you. I can see I'm going to need to practice my stealth more. Can we do this again tomorrow? Kurenai glanced up at the darkening sky and nodded. I have to get Hinata back to her home soon, but, here again tomorrow at 1:30. Sure thing. Naruto said, giving her a quick bow, then pulling both Hinatas into a hug. See you tomorrow. He chirped, then he bounced off, leaving Hinata and her clone both blushing so hard that Kurenai was amazed that the air wasn't glowing red around them. I think you shouldn't dispel the clone yet. Kurenai said with a wicked smile. Let's tell your father that it was the unexpected result of a jutsu. The two Hinatas looked at each other and started to giggle. Arg! Naruto's voice echoed from around the corner. I completely forgot. Where do I go to get the registration photo? Office 1C in the tower. Kurenai called back. The Chunin there will be able to take the photo for you on top of the Hokage's tower. Thanks. Naruto hollered back and both Hinatas started to giggle again. What the? A girl's voice said and all three Kunoichi turned to see a pink-haired girl staring at them. Two weak little mice. Kurenai frowned as Sakura sniffed and strode off, muttering a comment just loud enough to be overheard while quiet enough that it could be argued that she was simply talking to herself. At least they're not competition for Sasuke-kun, even though they'll never become good ninja. That was rude. Kurenai said slowly. Who was she? Haruno Sakura. Hinata said quietly. She was the Kunoichi of the year thanks to her perfect test scores and is one of the girls who keeps chasing Uchiha Sasuke, even though he's never shown any interest in girls. A fangirl. Kurenai sighed, shaking her head. Thank goodness you're not one. Fangirls do not make good Kunoichi. Ah no, Kurenai-senpai. Hinata began. Could you help me to learn to be braver? The other one finished and Kurenai smiled. You are doing a great job already. You only fainted 3 times around Naruto today and you were able to bring yourself to dispel his clones. Both Hinatas blushed. Hey, you the photonin. Naruto half-yelled as he almost erupted through the doorway. I need my photo for the files. And it's gotta look awesome. Not even a chance to finish my coffee. The Chunin behind the desk groaned. Oh well, let's get this over with. So, name. Uzumaki Naruto. How did you know that? Naruto asked. I've never seen you before, have I? I'm a censor type. Name Saji. The brown-haired ninja said as he rummaged through the desk drawers. That's how I knew who you were, a new genin with almost Kage levels of chakra and less control than the average academy student. Only one person fits that description. Hey! Naruto protested. I'm getting better, I can water walk and can almost tree walk. Hinata-chan really helped me by telling me what I was doing wrong. And what were you doing wrong? Zaji prompted, his voice muffled as he pulled out several large folders from the box under the desk. I kinda toppled a tree by using too much chakra. Naruto admitted and Zaji jolted, causing the desk to lift slightly. A moment later, he reappeared, rubbing the back of his head. Ouch! You toppled a tree just by pushing chakra into it? Have you ever thought about doing that with your fists? Naruto blinked. Huh? Why would I want to topple trees with my fists? I meant the chakra push thing. Zaji sighed as he stood up, holding the camera equipment. If you manage to send out a pulse of chakra just as you hit something, it makes the impact a lot stronger. Of course, gathering the pulse means that someone like me can sense that it is coming. So, should I try to learn how? Naruto asked and Zaji nodded. You should. Sensor-type ninja are fairly rare, so you'll have the advantage more often than you won't. Plus, if you get it working, you'll be able to claim it as a personal technique. I've got a few of my own, as have many of the shinobi. Wow. I'll have to try and come up with some awesome techniques. Naruto grinned as they emerged onto the roof. Zaji pointed to one of the sheltering awnings. Stand just there and look as serious as you can, but don't frown. Naruto bounced to the indicated point as Zaji set up the camera and tripod with the ease of experience. Now, look at the camera. Naruto blinked as a flash of light almost blinded him. Ow! What was that? That was one of the basic field jutsu, often used for signaling. Zaji said slowly. Didn't you come across it at the academy? No. Can you teach me? It's quite simple. Zaji said as he put away the tripod. You start by focusing chakra in your thumb and first finger, then you release it as you click your fingers, like this. As Zaji's middle finger impacted against the base of his thumb, a small but bright pulse of chakra sparked between his thumb and first finger. Cool. Naruto breathed. You practice it, I'll file the paperwork. Zaji said as he vanished down the stairs. Behind him, the roof was suddenly lit by a flash of light brighter than a lightning bolt. Oh, don't look directly at it or use too much chakra. Zaji shouted. Now you tell me. And here we are. Kurenai said as the trio walked up to the Kurenai's front door. Now, before we go in. Kurenai's comment was halted by a massive flash of light from the top of the Hokage tower that left them blinking several times. What was that? I don't know. Kurenai admitted. It wasn't an explosion. I'll check tomorrow. For now, why don't we finish arranging those pressed flowers of yours? With two of you, it'll be done twice as fast. Yes, Kurenai-senpai. We'll probably be done before your father gets here to pick you up. Kurenai smiled as she opened the front door. Naruto dropped the empty pot of ramen into the trash can and flopped onto the sofa. What a day. He sighed in satisfaction. I can water walk and know a cool jutsu to blind my enemies. Take that, team. The familiar surge of clone memories flowed through him and he winced. Ouch, I didn't realize that my orange was actually painful to Hinata. Maybe I should ask her to help me get a different orange, a darker one. Wow, the world through the Byakugan looks weird. Wait, was that Sakura? Oh, that was mean. I don't think Hinata-chan deserved that. Wait. Naruto's eyes slammed open. Those were Hinata's memories. Arg. Hinata wavered as her clone's memories integrated with her own. That's the problem with Kage Bunshin. Kurenai noted. If you're not prepared, the memory inflow can be rather disorientating. I was unaware that my daughter knew that particular jutsu. Hayashi noted from the front door and Kurenai shrugged. She doesn't. What? She doesn't. Kurenai repeated. We found a way to use someone else's chakra to make a Kage Bunshin, and Hinata has just confirmed that she gets the memories from the clone, not the person who actually performed the jutsu. Fascinating. Hayashi mused. Should this person become strong enough, they could aid by duplicating the person most suited to the mission in question. Lack of skill would no longer matter. May I learn the name of the one who has developed such an incredible technique? Kurenai gave a small nod and Hinata answered. Uzumaki Naruto, father. Hayashi blinked several times. What? But, he failed the academy exam. He's a full genin now. Kurenai corrected. The Jonin lounge was buzzing about it earlier. It's quite a tale. They pulled Iruka in to tell it since he was part of it. Then I shall have to visit tonight to find out the details. Hayashi stated. Thank you for looking after my daughter. It has been an honor to be entrusted with her care. Kurenai replied with a smile. Good night, Hinata-chan. Good night, Kurenai-senpai. Hinata replied as she moved to stand by her father. Chapter 3. Equipping of a new genin. There he is. Hinata said and Kurenai blinked. He seems nervous. The subject of their conversation turned as they approached and Kurenai's eyes widened slightly as she realized what was different about him. Naruto wasn't wearing his normal orange jacket while his trousers were dark blue civilian wear, totally unsuited to combat training. Kurenai-san, Hinata. Naruto said in greeting, one hand rubbing the back of his head. Hi. Naruto. Kurenai said in return. You seem less relaxed than yesterday. Yeah, I kinda found out something. Naruto admitted, but I'm not a perv or anything like that. I just didn't know it would happen, and by the time I worked it out, it had already finished, and so I. Naruto. Naruto stiffened to attention at Kurenai's shout. Hi. Just, tell us briefly what happened. No excuses, no opinions, just the facts. I kinda got Hinata-chan's clone's memories when she dismissed it yesterday. Naruto half whispered. And I didn't realize Sakura could be that mean. You totally aren't a timid little mouse. Heck, you're awesome at. Wait a minute. Kurenai said slowly. You're saying you got the memories too? Too. Hinata and Naruto chorused. Hinata got the memories when her clone dispelled. Kurenai explained slowly, her mind flicking through what the newest revelation meant. So don't try it with anyone unless they know about this and give permission. Alright? Kurenai sighed and Naruto nodded. Okay. Now. Those clothes won't hold up to any real training, so. About that, I was hoping Hinata could help me pick out new ones. Naruto interrupted, pulling out a frog-shaped wallet stuffed full of Ryo from one of his pouches. I mean, I don't want to hurt her eyes every time I make loads of clones and Hinata sees colors way better than me. I didn't even realize that my trousers and jacket were different shades until I got her memories of it. I spent an hour last night trying to see for myself, but I couldn't. Women can see more shades of color than males. Kurenai agreed. Hinata, do you want to? Hinata nodded. I'll be happy to help, Naruto-kun. Naruto promptly engulfed Hinata in a hug. Thanks, Hinata-chan. Hinata. Kurenai-san. Hinata's collapsed again. Kurenai managed not to giggle at Naruto's panic. You remember what we did yesterday when Hinata collapsed? She prompted and Naruto nodded. Sure thing. Can you support her for a moment? I don't want to accidentally copy her while she's out cold. Kurenai held Hinata's limp form as Naruto created two clones who promptly placed Hinata on the original Naruto's back before dispelling. Alright. Now, since you're a shinobi now, you can shop at the shinobi-only shops. Kurenai said with a smile. They tend to have good quality items optimized for shinobi, since the owners have their own experience to draw upon. We'll start with Higurushi's, they do a good young shinobi line of reinforced clothing. Cool. And this is where we are going to get most of your new stuff. Hinata heard as she regained consciousness to find herself being carried on someone's back. For a moment, she thought that she was being carried by Kurenai, but the hair against the side of her face was all wrong for that, yet somehow very familiar. Wow, cool place. Naruto's voice said and Hinata frowned mentally. It wasn't Kurenai who was carrying her and Naruto was Nerb. Hinata's thoughts hiccuped to a stop as she realized that it was Naruto who was carrying her for the second time in as many days, but before she could do anything, Naruto was speaking again. I think Hinata just woke up. You awake, Hinata-heim? I am. Hinata squeaked and Naruto half knelt, allowing her to get her feet back on solid ground. Hinata took the advantage of Naruto facing the other way to shoot Kurenai a small glare, to which the older Kunoichi responded with a bright smile, her eyes twinkling with mirth. Higurushi's. Hinata read from the sign above the door. They're very good for the basic stuff. Kurenai supplied. Combat trousers and tops, sandals, kunai, shuriken, ninja wire, tags, all of the basic things that any well-equipped shinobi required. Come on. Kurenai led the way into the shop and they were greeted by the young teenaged girl behind the counter. Welcome to Higurushi's Weapons and Supplies. Can I help you? Basic outfitting. Kurenai said, pointing to Naruto, and the girl stepped out from behind the counter, circling Naruto as she looked at him with a measuring eye. I'd say, size 4, medium length for the trousers. Those sandals still have a bit of wear in them, but I'd advise replacing them in about 4 weeks or so. For the top. Size 4 as well, what's your fighting style? He's a brawler. Kurenai interjected. Mesh enhanced, then, to protect against slashes. The girl stated. You want sections 14 and 32. I'd recommend at least 3 of each, maybe 4. I'll get them. Hinata offered as she scampered off. So, weapons. The girl continued. Let's see what you have. Naruto pulled out a kunai and the girl flinched. What? I only got them a week ago. Naruto protested. Dad. What is it, Ten? A deep voice replied from the back. We need a full set of kunai and shuriken. What? Naruto protested as Tenten's hands seemed to blur, pulling out all of his lovingly polished weapons and lining them up on the counter. I've got the clothes. Hinata said as she returned. What's going on? That's what I'd like to know. The deep-voiced man said as he stepped through the door, then his eyes latched onto the weapons on the counter. Ouch! Who on earth uses that? He rumbled, picking up a kunai and examining it. This is bad, metal crystallization, badly forged, no real edge, badly balanced, this would barely count as a training kunai. I paid 5,000 ryo for those. Naruto grumped and both man and daughter flinched. Kid, you were robbed. The man stated. The last time I saw a kunai this bad was Tenten's first attempt at making one when she was 7, and that was before I'd taught her how it was really done. Normally a full set would set you back 2,000 ryo, but if you give me the name of the moron who sold you these and let me have them as scrap, which is all they're good for, I'll have that price. I got them from Shima's shinobi weapons. Naruto said slowly and the man nodded even as he scooped the weapons into a bag. Okay. In future, you need anything ninja-related, you come here and I'll treat you fair. He said. Name's Kyugu, Higurushi Kyugu, that's my daughter Ten. Gloves. Hinata exclaimed and everyone looked at her in confusion, causing her to blush. What do you mean? Kurenai asked gently. I was thinking about what Naruto-kun needs. Hinata mumbled. He blocks a lot, so something like metal-lined gloves. Got just the thing. Kyugu said after taking a long look at Naruto's hands. Wait a moment. Kyugu vanished down one of the shop aisles, then reappeared. Fingerless gauntlets with overlapping metal plates on the outside. He explained, handing them over. Open design, more bracer than gauntlet, but the metal inserts on the knuckles help you punch. Naruto finished donning the gauntlets and took several swings, causing Ten to flinch. Who taught you to fight? She winced. Mizu, Ki. Naruto said, realization dawning mid-word. He screwed up my style, didn't he? Damn him, he said it was a special style only I could use. I spent hours every day trying to make it work. You'll need to inform your sensei that you urgently require taijutsu training once you've been assigned to your team. Kurenai noted. I saw how you fought against Hinata, your stance wasn't like anything I've ever seen before. Another thing to try and fix. Naruto grumped. Why the hell did I even think the academy was useful? Irika was the only decent teacher there. Now you know of the problem, you can solve it. Kyuga stated. The most important thing any shinobi needs to know is themselves. No lies, no delusions, just the basic truth about themselves because if someone else knows you better than you know yourself, they'll be able to manipulate you to their will no matter what you want. Naruto gave a slow nod. So how much for all this? 2,000 ryo. What? Naruto gasped. But, the clothes, the weapons. 2,000 ryo. Kyuga repeated. You've been screwed over enough. It's time to help get you straightened up. Just accept it. Kurenai advised. Thanks. Naruto said with a smile, then he picked up a pair of trousers and one of the armor mesh-lined t-shirts from the pile. Do you have somewhere I can get changed? The bell above the door tinkled and the woman behind the counter looked up. Welcome to Silken Leaf Fashions. She chirped. Ah, Kurenai. Here for another dress. Not today, Kunikata. Kurenai said, nodding towards the two genin who had followed her in. I'm escorting Naruto, he wants something that looks good but will stand up to combat. Kunikata rose from behind the counter and limped round. Both genin stared at the prosthetic that had replaced her left foot and the woman smiled. Long skirts are not good for kunoichis. She said in explanation and Hinata nodded in understanding. So, any specific requests? Orange? Naruto asked. Not bright orange, more darker orange, 'cause orange is cool but too much can hurt the eyes and I'm shutting up now. I'd recommend putting the Uzumaki clan crest on the shoulders of your t-shirts. Kunikata mused. And if you want orange, maybe a haori. Add some inner pockets for storage and a mesh layer, it'll help to reduce injury in combat. Hinata nodded as Naruto glanced at her. Hinata probably has a better idea than I do. He admitted. However, I'd like to include this as well. Naruto pulled out the clan tag that he normally wore on the shoulder of his jacket and Kunikata nodded as she took it. Easily done, I can simply mount it on the cord that holds the haori in place. Let me get a few measurements and I can have two complete within the hour. Leave the t-shirts as well and I'll add the crest to the shoulders. Left, right or both? Left please. Hinata requested and Kunikata smiled. Left? Naruto queried, then he shrugged. I don't see a difference, so, sure. Left. Come back in 2 hours. Kunikata ordered. While we're waiting, there's a few things I think I should check. Kurenai said once they'd returned to the training field. Naruto, how well can you read? Not very. Naruto sighed. I had to teach myself, there's quite a bit I still don't understand. Hinata. Hinata blushed, but nodded. I'll help, but it's almost time for me to go back home. Maybe if you left a clone. Kurenai mused and Hinata brightened. Okay. She smiled as she placed her hand on Naruto's shoulders, then she eeped as Kurenai gently pushed her into Naruto's arms. We don't know how much contact it needs, so let's play it safe. Kurenai explained. Naruto. One set of clones, please. Hinata closed her eyes as the wash of chakra flowed through her, shivering in pleasure. Hinata, you cold? Naruto asked and Hinata shook her head as she stepped away from him. No, I was just thinking about something. Clone Hinata, here's my house key. Take Clone Naruto there and start going through some of the basic books on my shelf. Kurenai ordered. Naruto, I'd recommend practicing with your new kunai and shuriken, in fact, go back to Higurushi's and ask if they can help you with that. 1010 is a weapons mistress in training, if memory serves, and they have a training yard out the back. I'll escort Hinata to her home, then come and pick you up so that you can pick up your new clothes. Okay. Naruto grinned, then he hugged Hinata. Thanks, Hinata. Today would have sucked without you. Why, you're welcome. Hinata managed as Naruto released her and raced off. Kurenai waited for a moment to ensure that she wasn't about to faint, then touched her shoulder to get her attention. Let's go. She said. You'll see him again tomorrow. And you'll get memories of teaching him later. Hinata smiled. Chapter 4. Teaching of a new genin. There he is. Hinata said and Kurenai smiled at Hinata's eagerness. Wow, he looks better than I expected. Kurenai's smile widened as she took in the sight of the distant genin. He had replaced his old blue sandals with black ones to match his trousers, while dark orange wraps covered the gap between the sandals and the trousers. His haori reached almost to mid-thigh and from the way it hung, Kurenai could tell that it was armored. As he turned, a kunai pouch was briefly visible attached to his belt while the flapping of fabric showed a line of shuriken attached to a magnetic strip just inside the haori itself. Hinata. Kurenai-san. He shouted in greeting and Hinata returned his exuberant wave with a smaller, but no less heartfelt one. Naruto-kun, you look great. Hinata managed and Naruto's grin widened. Thanks to you, Hinata-heim. He said in reply and Hinata blushed. Hey, Kurenai-san. What awesome stuff are you teaching today? It'll be Hinata doing most of the teaching. Kurenai said with a smile. I think her teaching you is helping her as much as it is you, albeit in different ways. I brought books for you to practice reading as well as some maths worksheets. As she spoke, Kurenai pulled out a small scroll and unrolled it on the ground, swiping one finger across it. A cloud of chakra smoke formed and dissipated, revealing 3 small stacks of books. History, Field Tactics and Maths. Kurenai said, indicating the piles. Hinata'll teach you via clone, so you'll both need 3 clones for this. Naruto waited for Hinata to nod in confirmation before he caught her in a hug and made the familiar hand seal behind her back. Kurenai nodded in approval as the newly created clones gathered up the books and then moved to different places around the field so that they didn't accidentally interfere with each other. Today will be stretching and flexibility exercises. Kurenai said. Naruto, if you could send a dozen clones to practice water and tree walking, that would be good. Kurenai waited for the newly created clones to run off to the trees and lake before she pulled out another scroll and unsealed a trio of rolled-up mats. Passing one to each genin, she unrolled the third and shed her sandals before stepping onto it. You probably haven't done these exercises before, Naruto, so pay attention and try to copy Hinata and myself as best you can. She said gently. We will start with basic stretches. Keep one leg straight, hands on your hips and bend the other leg like this. Naruto wobbled for a moment as he tried to follow the moves that the 2 females were doing so effortlessly. Are you alright? Hinata asked worriedly as Naruto lay sprawled on the grass. How do you do that? Naruto groaned. I thought I was fit. There are different sorts of fitness. Kurenai said from where she was finishing rolling up the mats. You're used to high-energy movement, running, jumping, that sort of thing. These exercises were all about flexibility, control and precision. I'm aching, but it's sorta in a good way. Naruto mused. I'm not sure I can move at the moment, though. Hinata, you might want to lie down as well. Kurenai suggested. It's almost time to dispel the clones. Hinata sat down, then glanced at Naruto measuringly. It's okay, Hinata. Naruto groaned. I know you don't want to get leaves in your hair, so you can borrow my Haori to use as a pillow, huh? Naruto lifted his head to look down at Hinata, who was resting her head on his stomach while she clasped his hand in both of hers. Kurenai looked over at them and promptly raised a hand to hide her smile. Kurenai-senpai. Alright, first pair, dispel. Kurenai ordered and both genin twitched slightly as the first set of memories cascaded into their minds. That looks very comfortable. One of the clone Hinatas whispered to herself enviously and Kurenai fought down a sudden attack of the giggles. Okay, ready for the next one. Naruto called out. Hinata-heim. I'm ready. Kurenai nodded at the next pair, both of whom promptly dispelled. Even as she fought to integrate the new memories, Hinata blushed at how she and Naruto looked, but didn't move. Kurenai turned away before she could lose control over her giggles. Kurenai-san. Kurenai stiffened in shock, then spun to face the new arrival, who was fortunately standing just out of view of the clones. We're ready for the final ones. Hinata called and Kurenai spared a moment to nod at the remaining pair of clones before turning her attention back to the man in the trees. Hayashi-sama. She said with a slight bow and Hayashi stepped forwards, his expression inscrutable. I see that my daughter is willing to aid Uzumaki and is becoming a friend to him, Hayashi said and Kurenai nodded. I determined that Hinata's confidence improved every time she helped Naruto to recover from what seems to have been a campaign of neglect during his days at the academy, so the use of clones seemed to be a viable way of increasing that improvement without spending too much time that could be used in other forms of training. Hayashi held up a hand to halt Kurenai's explanation. I have no problem with Uzumaki aiding my daughter in becoming stronger, he stated. However, my daughter will soon be assigned to a team and I would appreciate a chance to gain the measure of one who may be her teammate. I have already spoken to the Inuzuka and the Aburame. Not the Uchiha? Kurenai asked and Hayashi shook his head. No. My sources in the tower tell me that he will almost certainly be on the same team as the Haruno girl, with the third being either the Inuzuka or Uzumaki. If it's not Naruto, your daughter will be depressed, Kurenai admitted. What can you tell me about him? Kurenai glanced over to where Naruto had got to his feet and was helping Hinata up. What sort of information do you need? A standard character report should suffice, Hayashi said with a slight smile, and Kurenai nodded. Uzumaki Naruto, parentage unknown or classified. Orphan. Failed the academy but was promoted to genin after succeeding in an unplanned field mission. Very high chakra levels which make it hard for him to concentrate for long periods of time, although the chakra control exercises have already provided a small but noticeable improvement in that. Current ratings are Taijutsu, low, Ninjutsu, medium to high, Shurikenjutsu, low to medium, general knowledge, poor, but part of this is due to passive sabotage in the academy and Naruto having to learn to read and write without assistance. Future potential is very high in all fields. Thanks, Kurenai-san. Naruto chirped from behind her. I'm gonna get as good as I can, cause I'm gonna become the Hokage. Believe it. Hayashi glanced at his daughter, who was nodding in agreement. And how are you intending to improve that much? He asked. Simple, Hinata's helping me and she's awesome. Naruto responded, giving Hinata a one-armed hug as she blushed. My reading skills have shot way up since she started teaching me, soon I'll be on the same level as most of the others, and it's all because of how amazing Hinata-hime is. And would you say that Kurenai-san's summation of your skills was indeed a precise reflection of your current capabilities? Naruto stared at him blankly. Did Kurenai-san get the list of your skills right? Hinata whispered into Naruto's ear and he brightened in understanding. Mostly, but she got the taijutsu wrong. It isn't low, I completely suck at it thanks to being taught all wrong. I'm trying to relearn the academy style, but while it feels better, it still doesn't quite feel right. When I get a Jonin sensei, I'm gonna have to ask for taijutsu training as the most important thing I need. Hayashi raised a mental eyebrow at the brutal honesty in Naruto's reply, but didn't allow a hint to show on his face. It is rare to meet a shinobi who doesn't allow self-deception to overrule self-knowledge. He offered. Well, when both teacher and sparring partner wince at how bad you are, it's kinda difficult to claim you're good, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head with his free hand. I've talked it over with them and it's only my stamina and high pain. Hinata. Threshold. Thanks. High pain threshold that let me win at all. Naruto finished. So I suck and I need to suck less if I have a chance at the hat. But I'll make it, believe it. Hayashi stared at Naruto for a long moment, then he turned to Hinata. Daughter, tomorrow, I will send Ko to pick you up after your training, although he may be early. Kurenai-san, you may make whatever use of him you wish if he is early. Hinata glanced briefly at Naruto and Hayashi caught the question that she didn't dare ask. Rather than reply out loud, he inclined his head slightly to acknowledge her worry and confirm that he would deal with it. Hayashi looked up from the paperwork on his desk as a shadow announced a visitor outside his study. Briefly activating his Byakugan, Hayashi paused just long enough to slightly tidy his desk before speaking. You may enter. The door opened and Hyuga Ko stepped through, sliding it shut behind him. Stepping forwards, he dropped into a Seiza position, then bowed. You summoned me, Lord Hayashi. I did. Hayashi confirmed. As you are aware, Jonin Yuhi Kurenai has been guiding and teaching Hinata over the last few days. Hayashi paused and Ko gave a slight nod to indicate that he was indeed aware of the events that had stopped his usual task of being Hinata's bodyguard. What I am about to tell you must never be repeated. Hinata has been using the Kage Bunshin to aid in her progress. I was unaware that she had learned that kenjutsu, Lord Hayashi. I did not think her chakra reserves were large enough for such a technique. She has not learned it and they are not. Hayashi stated, enjoying the look of confusion on Ko's face. She has been training alongside Uzumaki Naruto, who has learned that technique, and they discovered that should he create a clone while Hinata is in contact with him, he clones her as well. Ko's jaw dropped for a moment before he pulled himself back under control. When her clones dispel, she regains their memories. Hayashi added. Incredible. Ko breathed, then he frowned slightly. But for her to be studying alongside him. And thus we reach the next secret. Hayashi stated. I have received permission from the Hokage to tell you this. Naruto is the third who carries the Kyuubi and you once had a crush on the second, his mother. Ko blanched. Kushina. She is his. I thought he was simply named after her. She carried the Kyuubi too. As did Senju Mito, formerly known as Uzumaki Mito and Kushina's aunt. Hayashi said in a calm voice. 3 generations of Uzumaki have held the Kyuubi and in all that time, it has only escaped once. The seal that holds it now has been described as the masterpiece of the Yondaime. In other words, you will from this day on respect Uzumaki. He is not the prisoner, he is the prison that holds it and to strike at him is to risk the prisoner escaping. Am I clear? Ko nodded frantically. Hi, Hayashi-dano. Good. Now, about tomorrow. Hinata winced as Ko used a stick to swat Naruto's leg. Point the foot forwards, not out. Ko commanded. Make a fist like this and move it like so to punch. I hadn't realized that Ko was such a disciplinarian. Kurenai noted. But Naruto does seem to be improving. Given how bad he was to begin with, going to simple barroom brawling would have been an improvement. Ko noted as he walked past them to where a group of Naruto's clones were going through the first kata taught at the academy. Smooth motions. Flow like water. I think I owe your father a favor for this. Kurenai noted. I'm not very good in taijutsu, relatively speaking. I make up for it in the other fields, but... Kurenai shrugged, then she returned to watching Naruto being shown how he should have been taught to fight. With those clones, he should be caught up in 6 months or so. Assuming his Jonin-sensei bothers to teach him. Hinata gave Kurenai a long look. Is he going to be on our team? I don't know. Kurenai sighed. I used up my favor by asking for you. Naruto. I can't say. Chapter 5. Assignment of a new genin. The noise level of the classroom dropped significantly as Hinata and Naruto entered. Part of the sudden drop in volume was that instead of scurrying in timidly like normal, Hinata was standing up straight. Most of the reason, though, was the person who was accompanying her, a person whom everyone else in the classroom knew had failed. Of course, not everyone was focused on that fact. Daemon. Ino breathed. How did the class clown hide all that yuminess? Hinata promptly shifted to slightly in front of Naruto, shielding him from Ino's semi-predatorial gaze. Hey, why is the dead last here? Kiba shouted. He failed, remember? He couldn't even do a clone. Most of it's classified, but I helped plug a hole in the security of the village and as a reward, I got promoted. Naruto shot back. And no, Sasuke couldn't have done it because he passed the test. The mission needed someone who had failed. Several of the girls in the room froze, their instant declarations that Sasuke should have had the chance to do the mission slamming into the realization that in order to have got the mission, he would have had to have failed and Hinata capitalized on the pause. Grabbing Naruto's hand, she towed him to a pair of adjacent seats and settled down, smiling as Naruto let her rest her head on his shoulder. But how did you manage to get a pass without a clone? Kiba persisted and Naruto rose, placing his hands in a cross seal. A cloud of smoke erupted behind him, dissipating to reveal a single clone, and Naruto sat down again as the clone walked to Kiba's desk and smacked his nose with one finger before dispelling. Ow! Kiba whined, clutching at his nose. That hurt, damn it. You know we Inuzuka have sensitive noses. That was a solid clone. Sakura gasped and Naruto nodded. Yep, I've got way too much chakra to do one of the normal bunshin, so I learned something better. Teach me. Sasuke snapped, spinning to look at Naruto, but it was Hinata who replied. You do not have enough chakra, Sasuke-san. If you indeed wish to commit suicide by exhausting all your chakra while trying to perform a technique that you are physically incapable of, then may I ask that you first make a will? The Hyuga clan will happily take possession of the Uchiha sector once you have killed yourself and thus ended the Uchiha's presence in Konoha. Sasuke growled as he flopped back down and Hinata half-turned to see Naruto gaping at her. Wow, Hinata. You really told him. That was awesome. Hinata blushed and buried her face into the junction of Naruto's neck and shoulder. Heh, it would seem that young Hinata's been spending a great deal of time around Naruto. Hiruzen chuckled as he viewed the scene through his crystal ball. The opening of the classroom door caught everybody's attention and Irika walked in, looking at the assembled children. First of all, may I say congratulations to all of you for passing the test last week. He said. Now, before I read out your assignments, do any of you have any questions? Yeah. Kiba shouted. How come the Dobe's here? He failed the test and gave us a story about passing another way. That is correct. Naruto was given a field promotion for his actions in preventing a great loss to the village via the actions of a traitor. Irika said, showing no sign of regret at Mizuki's fate, even though Mizuki had been his friend for years. Combined with his learning of a variant of the Bunshin, it was decided that he was indeed qualified to become a shinobi, a decision confirmed by the Sandaime Hokage himself. Do you have a problem with this? Kiba slunk back into his seat and Irika checked his list. Right now, teams 1 through 6 are being assigned in the other classrooms, so I shall begin with Team 7. Team 7 is under the command of Jonin Hitaki Kakashi and consists of the Rookie of the Year Uchiha Sasuke, the Kunoichi of the Year Haruno Sakura. Yes. Sakura exulted. Take that, Ino pig. No. Ino screamed. Sit down and shut up. Irika roared and both Kunoichi dropped back into their chairs, pale with shock. Ahem, and Uzumaki Naruto. No. Naruto shouted, inadvertently drowning Hinata's identical exclamation out. This team sucks. Because you're on it. Sakura sneered. Even trying to look as cool as Sasuke is doesn't change that fact. Irika pointedly cleared his throat. Team 8, under Jonin Yuhi Kurenai is Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata and Inuzuka Kiba. Hinata sighed sadly and cuddled up against Naruto. Team 9 is still in rotation, so Team 10, under Sarutobi Asuma, will be Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino and Akamichi Choji. Damn it, Forehead gets all the luck. Ino raged. Your senseis will be here to collect you after lunch, so you are dismissed for an hour. Naruto gave Hinata a quick kiss on the cheek, then rose and walked over to where Sasuke was sitting, trying to ignore Sakura. Since we are assigned to be a team, we should try to get to know each other. He began, only to quickly step back as Sakura swung at him. Before she could recover her balance, Hinata had appeared almost out of nowhere, Byakugan blazing, and struck Sakura's right arm, numbing it. Ow! Thanks, Hinata-heim. Naruto said, noting that Sasuke had taken advantage of the situation to escape. Shino, Kiba, I'm taking Hinata to Ichiraku's, my treat. Since you're on her team, you want to come as well? Sure. Kiba shrugged. Sharing sustenance is traditionally an acceptable way to encourage and enhance interpersonal relationships. Shino droned. I am honored to accept your invitation. Damn, those lessons you've been giving me really are working. Naruto whispered to Hinata as he led the impromptu group out of the classroom. I understood every word that he just said. Hinata failed to restrain her giggles at his comment. The classroom door opened and two figures entered, looking at the assembled genin. Team 8. The woman called and Naruto caught Hinata's shoulder as she stood. Just remember, you're totally awesome. He whispered, giving her a quick kiss on her cheek. Trust me on that. Hinata beamed at him, then quickly kissed him back before scurrying to Kurenai's side, her face glowing red as Kurenai tried to hide her smile. Team 10. The man stated and Naruto leaned back as Shikamaru, Ino and Choji filed to the bearded ninja's side. See you later, Hinata-heim. Naruto called and Hinata gave him a small wave before she vanished through the door. What does she see in a baka like you? Sakura wondered and Naruto glared at her before reaching into one of his belt pouches and pulling out a small book. And what is that? It's a book, Sakura. You know, it has paper sheets that hold words. Naruto riposted and Sakura looked taken aback at the lack of the normal, chan suffix that was usually attached to her name by him. And since when does a baka like you read? Since a princess took the time to teach me. Naruto shot back. Now please hush, some of us have better things to do than listen to your screeches. As Sakura started to prepare a blistering comeback, Sasuke spoke up. I agree with the dope. Shut up. You're starting to give me a headache. Sakura meekly sat down, glancing at the door while Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the picture of the Uchiha fan on the cover of Naruto's book. You're late. You're late. Naruto looked up from the book on the various types of traps and found himself looking at a tall shinobi standing in the now open door. The man was thin with spiky silver hair while most of his face was covered by a mask pulled up over the bridge of his nose and a hitayate angled over his left eye. My first opinion of you is that I don't like you. The new arrival mused. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Don't be late. The ninja vanished in a cloud of smoke and Naruto sighed. That must have been Kakashi. He said as he slowly put his book away, then moved to the window as the other two dashed out of the doorway. Channeling his chakra, he swung himself out of the window and stood on the wall of the academy, then walked up to the top, grabbing the railing and vaulting over it. Interesting. The tall man mused, even though he didn't pull his attention out of the book he was reading. Wall walking already? Now who taught you that? Naruto glared at Kakashi. The way he had phrased it suggested that he had known about the way that Naruto's learning had been sabotaged, a definite minus point in Naruto's book. We're here, how did you get here before us, you baka? Sakura burst out as she sprinted through the roof access. Naruto simply sighed and moved to sit down on the furthest one of the 3 benches, letting the other 2 claim the others. So, let us introduce ourselves. Name, likes, hates, dreams, Kakashi said and Sakura raised her hand. Will you show us how? Naruto managed not to facepalm. His lessons with Hinata and later with Ko, with whom he hadn't used the shared cloning technique, had raised his social abilities to the point where he could now identify stupid questions, although usually, it was identifying them before he asked them that was the issue. Oh, okay. My name is Hitaki Kakashi, I have things I like, there are things I dislike and you aren't old enough to learn about my dreams yet. Alright, Pinky. My name is Haruno Sakura and I like. Sakura broke off as she glanced at Sasuke. My dreams are. Naruto sighed as Sakura looked at Sasuke again. And your dislikes? Kakashi prompted. Naruto. As if I care. Naruto grumbled, noticing the slight frown that Kakashi gave him. Alright, broody. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I don't have many likes or dislikes, but my dream is to kill a certain man and rebuild my clan. And finally, Blondie. For a moment, Naruto was tempted to go all out, but then the memory of the slight frown crossed his mind and he decided to tweak his sensei. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. There are some things I like, there are some things I dislike, and my dream is mine to achieve. Stop trying to be cool, you baka. Kakashi's eye narrowed at Naruto's response, but he ignored Sakura's outburst. So, you three have passed the academy exam, but you aren't true genin yet. Kakashi stated. You won't be unless you pass my test tomorrow, and be aware that on average, 2 in 3 fail the test and have to return to the academy for another 6 months. Naruto frowned at the implication. Kakashi had already showed himself to be distressingly similar to the academy teachers, bar Irika. But he was obviously unaware of how Naruto's promotion had differed from the others. Meet me tomorrow at 7 a.m. on Training Ground 7 for your final test. Kakashi said. I'd advise you not to eat breakfast, you'll only throw it up again. Bye. Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves and Naruto rose from his bench. What did he mean by that? Sakura quavered. I think I'll check out the area tonight and talk to Kurenai-san. Naruto decided, vaulting over the railing and using his chakra to slide down the wall. Stop showing off, you baka. Sakura screamed. Hey, wait for me, Sasuke-kun. Kurenai paused as a familiar voice called her name. Naruto. Clone. The blonde clarified as he came to a stop beside her. Boss is checking out Training Ground 7 for tomorrow's test, but he sent a whole load of us out to get info. One of us was even sent to Hayashidano. Information about. Kurenai prompted. Hatake Kakashi. The clone replied. Boss is trying to put as much info together on him as possible. Do you know anything about him, and are you allowed to tell us any of that? For a start, he's known as Sharingan Kakashi for the Sharingan he has underneath his Hitai-8. Kurenai began. And he is consistently 3 hours late, unless it is for a mission of C rank or above, or he has been ordered to show up on time by the Hokage. Hayashi told the clone who was sitting attentively in front of him. He said to show up by 7. The clone supplied. Then he will be there by 10. I would advise showing up at 9:30 just to be on the safe side. I'm afraid that I can't really tell you anything about your sensei. Hiruzen sighed. There are certain rules and traditions that prevent it. Meh, it was worth a try. The clone shrugged. I mean, what better source of information is there in the whole village than the Hokage? Well reasoned. Hiruzen said with a smile. I am proud of you, Naruto. You really have grown over the last week. You've already had your test and passed. Congratulations. Hinata smiled as Naruto's clone engulfed her in a hug. Hopefully the real Naruto would give her another hug when they next met. Chapter 6. Testing of a new genin. You're late. Sakura growled as Naruto strolled onto the training field. Naruto glanced round even as he felt the memories of one of the clones he had sent to give him warning should Kakashi not show up late flow into his mind. Sakura, just how late was Kakashi yesterday? Naruto queried. What made you think he wouldn't be late today? That's not the point. Sakura snarled. I knew he would be late, so I've done some extra training to get ready. Naruto commented as he moved to one of the 3 posts in the middle of the training field and leaned against it. Have either of you done anything to prepare in the last couple of hours? Lay traps. Scout out the area to learn where things are, such as the best hiding places. Check your kunai and shuriken to make sure that none of them are about to break. Sasuke looked up from where he was sitting, his expression startled. Who are you and what have you done with Naruto? I am Naruto. Naruto shot back. I just received some good advice on how to be a proper ninja, advice that no one bothered to give me before. So, I've checked all my weapons, explored the area last night and done some research into our sensei. Who's interested? Sakura sniffed. Stop making things up, Baka. If that's how you want it. Naruto shrugged. Since we have another half hour before he's going to arrive, I'm going to try and meditate. You, meditate? Sakura snorted and Naruto nodded as he sat down cross-legged, his hands on his knees. Hinata showed me how. And Sakura, she isn't a timid little mouse. If she hadn't been holding back, she would be on this team, not you. Sakura stared at him, then started to stalk over and Naruto gave a covert hand signal. Stop lying, Baka. Sakura shouted as she swung her fist at his head. Only to fall over as Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. I think I'll leave a clone and meditate somewhere else. Naruto said from the side of the clearing, where his clone had Kawarimi'd with him. Nice trick. Sasuke admitted, causing Sakura to stare at him in shock. You're late. Naruto didn't need the inflow of memories from the watch clone to inform him that their tardy sensei to be had arrived, and with a sigh, he pulled himself to his feet and stepped out from behind the tree. Well, I had to help an old lady with her shopping, then I got lost on the road of life. Kakashi said. Liar. Sakura, it's not a good idea to accuse someone of lying unless you have proof. Naruto commented. Kakashi, showing up late twice raises certain questions about your competence, or worse. If not for Gigi vouching for you, I'd lump you in with Mizuki and simply walk away right now. Kakashi stared at him for a long moment before shrugging and walking over to the 3 stumps. Pulling out an alarm clock, he placed it on the middle stump, then held up 2 small bells. Now, I don't know if you've been told this, but passing the academy tests doesn't mean that you're full genin yet. You still need to pass the test set by your prospective Jonin sensei, who is, in this case, me. As you can see, I have 2 bells. You have to try and take a bell from me by noon. But, there are only 2 bells. Sakura pointed out and Kakashi nodded. Correct. Only 2 of you will manage to get the bells. In order to get a bell, you'll have to come at me with the intent to kill, otherwise you won't stand a chance. If you don't have a bell by the end of the test, you will return to the academy. Kakashi finished and Naruto glanced at his so-called teammates, Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura, the latter of whom was still rather disconcerted by his sudden change from trying to pursue her at every opportunity to a cool disinterest. Let me get this straight. He said slowly. We are to try to engage you in hand-to-hand combat, without a chance to prepare, to get one of the 2 bells, and if we do somehow manage to get one before the alarm goes off, we'll have to defend ourselves against our so-called teammates since they'll see whoever has the bell as an easier target than you. Is my understanding of the situation wrong? Kakashi shook his head slowly. Not really, but you're not completely right either. So, do you think that you understand the purpose of the test, then? I understand perfectly. Naruto said, drawing on the many conversations he had had with Hinata, Kurenai and several members of Hinata's family over the last week. This is primarily a taijutsu test and we all know that I suck at it. Therefore, this test is aimed at getting rid of me so you can train the last Uchiha and his fangirl without the baggage of the dead last. Sakura winced at the venom with which Naruto injected into his description of her. You 2 win. Naruto said to Sasuke and Sakura. I'll see you around. Smirking at the shocked silence, Naruto turned and walked out of the training field. If he hurried, he could join Team 8 to take up Kurenai-sensei's earlier request to provide them with an op force to practice against and still have time to find out what missions he could take as a lone genin. And Hinata would almost certainly continue to help him relearn how to read, which was very nice of her. And she was so clever, she had worked out that by using his cloning ability on her, he could both get the experience of learning how to read and the experience of knowing how to read. His vocabulary and ability to use it was expanding faster than he had ever dreamed possible. His old textbooks were already much easier to understand now that he knew what the longer words actually meant. And now that Kakashi has shown up, only 15 minutes late, we can begin. Hiruzen said. In order of team numbers, Pass or fail with overview if necessary. Team 1, total fail. None of them are suitable to be shinobi. Team 2, partial fail. 2 of them have what it takes to be genin but not elite. I recommend transferring them to the genin pool. Team 3, fail. Only one salvageable, although he does qualify for elite, meaning he can be reassigned if need be. Team 4. Fail doesn't even begin to describe it. Suggest that student Ami be expelled for being a disruptive influence. Team 5, partial fail. 2 probably salvageable as elite genin with another 6 months at the academy. Team 6. Fail. Just, fail. Team 7, long story. Kakashi sighed, attracting the attention of the other jonin. I'll explain after the others have reported. Team 8 passed. Kurenai said after a long pause. I also tested them against an op force today to get a good idea of their strengths and weaknesses. I'll have the write-up done by 7. You'll have to tell me who you hired for that. Asuma said. I may try that on my team, which passed, by the way. Team 10. So, Kakashi. Hiruzen prompted and the Kopinin sighed. The test was a non-starter. Naruto chose to walk after I explained the rules, stating that the test was an attempt to get rid of him so that I could concentrate on training the other 2. What was the test? Asuma asked. The bell test. Kakashi replied. I was testing their teamwork. Naruto failed instantly and vanished before I could give him another chance. From what I can tell and given what he went through at the academy, it was a perfectly logical conclusion that he drew. Hiruzen said, hiding his amusement at Kakashi's exasperation. And since he got his promotion in the field rather than via the academy, he can continue as a ninja and take missions. He's already signed up for the morning shift of wall patrol. But. Kakashi stuttered, only for Kurenai, who was amongst the assembled jonin watching with amusement, to interrupt. Naruto provided my team with the opposing force I mentioned earlier to train against today. With the number of clones he can create, he really gave them a workout. Yash! Guy shouted from the corner where he was observing. I shall have to ask him to do the same for my youthful genin. His taijutsu was sabotaged in the academy. Kurenai warned the exuberant jonin. You may need to train him in a new style first. On the plus side, he has a certain technique that might help. But he was meant to be on my team. Kakashi protested. I asked for him. He obviously disagrees. Hiruzen shrugged. But since we need the Uchiha on a team due to political reasons, I can find another genin for your team from the general pool or the salvageable genin. If you don't think you can take a team without Naruto, I'll appoint another Jonin sensei for the Uchiha's team. Kakashi seemed to wilt. I'll take the 3rd genin. Wait. Lord Hokage, what did you mean by we need the Uchiha for political reasons? Kurenai asked. The other villages all know that the last Uchiha is now of an age to become a genin. Should we fail to field him as a shinobi, our reputation will suffer since they will assume that the Uchiha massacre was done by my command and that Sasuke is nothing more than a breeding stallion for the next generation. Hiruzen supplied. It's also why I assigned him to Kakashi. His Sharingan means that when Sasuke activates his dojutsu, Kakashi will be able to train him in its usage. Ah. Kurenai nodded. Political reasons. Of course. My apologies, I thought for a moment that it was Konoha politics, not international ones. An easy mistake to make. Hiruzen said soothingly. Kakashi, please stay. Everyone else, thank you for coming. As the jonin filed out, Kurenai used her smaller frame to slide through the crowd until she was walking beside Mado Guy. As they exited the tower, the taller jonin looked down at her. You wish to discuss young Naruto, I presume, Kurenai-san. Kurenai blinked at the reminder that although Guy was bombastic, overly cheerful, insanely devoted to training and tended to be as blunt as a tetsubo to the skull, this in no way equated to stupid. Kurenai briefly allowed herself to wonder just how intelligent the spandex-wearing jonin really was, then she refocused on the conversation. Naruto has learned the Kage Bunshin, and I took it upon myself to help him learn about the memory transfer effect of it. Aha! So I can ask him to make many clones and have each one practice a different part of the kata while his true self works on stoking his flames of youth. Guy exclaimed and Kurenai blinked. Guy really was intelligent, despite appearances. It's more than that, she said, weaving a subtle genjutsu around them to prevent their conversation from being overheard. He has discovered another way of using it. Hinata has been helping him to learn how to read properly, by letting him clone her and then her clone teaches his. When her clone dispels, they both receive the memories. Guy froze. Guy. Alas. That would have been such an incredible way to teach my own students the ways of youth, but none of them yet have the ability to use the Kage Bunshin, and I fear that Likuen never will. Right. Kurenai slowly said. Anyway, since he can learn techniques that way, you may be able to teach him by letting him clone you, doing one kata and dispelling the clone. An excellent, although now that I actually consider it, slightly flawed, thought. Guy said, earning a confused frown. You see, should I give him the memories of one of the basic katas, irrespective of the style I will help him select, the memories will be more hindrance than help. I am a different size to him, the ratio of my torso to my limbs is different, as is my center of gravity. The memories attained that way would prove almost unusable, it would take longer for him to adapt them to his own body form than it would to learn them through the traditional katas themselves. I hadn't considered that, Kurenai admitted. Nevertheless, it is a good thought for the future. Guy continued. With the right training, he will be able to adapt new moves into his own fighting style and it is then that he shall be able to learn as you have suggested. Kurenai mentally revised her estimate of Guy's intelligence upwards once again. Why did he go to such lengths to hide it? I shall look forwards to meeting Naruto-kun tomorrow, Guy said, but for now, I sense that my team is ready to have their fires of youth transformed into a true blazing inferno. For youth. Guy blurred away and Kurenai shook her head in amused disbelief. Why was she thinking he was intelligent, again? Chapter 7. Patrol of a New Genin. Uzumaki Naruto. A voice asked and Naruto turned to look at the old man who had spoken. I'm your patrol partner for the morning, Genin Mariboshi Kosuka, although many call me the man in Genin. Naruto stared at him in shock. You're as old as Gigi. Gigi? Kosuka asked and Naruto blushed slightly, remembering several lessons in manners that Kurenai and Hinata had given him via clone teaching. Gomen, I apologize for my comment, although I was surprised by your appearance, my behavior was inexcusable. You're forgiven, Naruto. Kosuka said, patting the, significantly, younger Genin on the shoulder. Now, who is this Gigi of yours? Hiruzen, the Hokage. Naruto explained, falling into step with Kosuka and glancing down to see that one of the old shinobi's legs ended in a prosthetic foot. I remember Hiruzen when he was younger. Kosuka reminisced, then his gaze sharpened. He had the same determination I see in you, young Naruto. I'm sure I'll see great things from you in the future. Naruto blinked. Somehow, Kosuka had, for a bare instant, radiated the same aura of strength and power that Hiruzen had occasionally displayed. I've never patrolled the wall before, Naruto said, changing the subject. I can create dozens of Kage Bunshin if you think we may need them. For patrolling, we walk along the top of the wall, watching for anything unusual. Kosuka explained. Multiple flocks of birds, gaps that weren't there the previous day, motion where there shouldn't be or stillness where there should be motion. If we see anything odd, we sound the alarm by striking the alert sequence on the pipe. Naruto followed Kosuke's glance and saw a long metal pipe half buried in the wall. The sound of the strikes go to the guard posts under the wall and the direction of the alert tells them where they are needed. Kosuke continued. Cool. Naruto admitted. I thought it would be some sort of super jutsu or something. Why go for complicated when simplicity works so much better? Plus, if you're injured, you can still hit the pipe, even if you can't channel chakra. Kosuke shrugged, then he paused. There. You see that? A flock of birds? Naruto asked and Kosuke nodded. Yeah, but, wait, another just appeared and are some more birds circling behind the first lot you pointed out? Something startled them. Kosuke said, pulling out a kunai and walking to the edge of the wall. Something moving in the trees parallel to the wall, heading east. Now, pay attention to these codes, you'll need to memorize them at some point if you ever want to do this alone. Movement. South. Heading east. Distance, 1 kilometer. Speed, fast. Naruto nodded as he tried to memorize the rhythms that Kosuke had tapped on the pipe. I think I got some of the signals, but I have a book you can borrow. Kosuke offered. Copy it and return it, the copying will help you memorize it. Thanks. Senpai. Naruto said and Kosuke started to chuckle. Senpai, am I? I'm old enough to be your grandpa, you know. Okay, it's been almost a minute and no alarms have sounded, so whatever or whoever that was is known and we can continue our patrol. Naruto gave the forest another look, then scurried to catch up with the older genin. Senpai, what's with the walk? Kosuke reached back to tap the edge of the large walk that he was wearing on his back. I have several reasons. First, it's a shield. The shape helps to deflect anything thrown at me from behind which I can't dodge. Second, when I'm in the field, I can use it to cook food in. Akamichi Chusa himself said my cooking was as good as anything he'd ever tasted in the field. Third, it's a weapon. As long as you can grip it, anything can be a club. Most ninja don't think of cooking utensils as being weapons, at least not before they wake up with bumps on their foreheads. Naruto stared at Kosuke in amazed admiration as the older man continued to share his accumulated wisdom. Good afternoon, Naruto. Kurenai called in greeting as Naruto leapt out of the branches of the trees and landed barely 20 meters away. Kurenai-san. Naruto replied with a big grin. Hey, I had wall patrol today. I remember that. Kurenai sighed. It was one of the missions I had to take as a chunin to help pay my bills. So, anything interesting happened? I was teamed up with another genin, a really old one. Mariboshi Kosuke. Kurenai stated and Naruto stared at her. You know him? He's a jonin in everything but his actual rank. Kurenai said, then she frowned. He's also in high demand, odd that he was walking the wall, unless what? Naruto asked after Kurenai trailed off. Never mind. Kurenai said. But he's very skilled, so you should take the opportunity to really listen to everything he chooses to tell you. And his food is amazing. If he ever offers you the chance to join him on a mission, I'd advise you to accept. He helped me when I was still a genin, gave me some good advice that I've never regretted. Cool. Very. Kurenai agreed. Now, we have a little while before my team return from their mission, so I think I should tell you about a conversation I had with Mato Guy yesterday. Naruto-kun. Hinata called in greeting as she and her teammates entered the training field. Hinata-chan. Kiba. Shino. Naruto waved back. How'd your mission go? Tora tracked, caught and returned. Kiba gloated, then he frowned. And an oddly familiar pink-haired girl stopped us for a few minutes to speak to Hinata. She wanted to apologize for what she said before the second genin test. Hinata said quietly. Apparently she and Ino had just finished another of their arguments over Sasuke and she was in a bad mood. Excellent work on Tora, and I'm glad that Sakura apologized. Kurenai said, causing both Hinata and Kiba to smile. Even Shino seemed to radiate a sense of satisfaction briefly. Hinata, if you would. Hinata hugged Naruto and he made his most used hand sign. You managed to do that silently. Kurenai said approvingly as clones of Naruto and Hinata appeared. Very good. Any enemy who doesn't know what that seal is would be taken by surprise. Kosuke-senpai lent me a book on combat signals to study. Naruto said as his clone fished his own copy out of his storage pouch. Ah, that book. Kurenai said with a nod of recognition. I'll get copies for the rest of you tomorrow. It'll help with tracking if you can communicate silently. The tactical advantages inherent in learning silent communication are obvious. Shino droned. I must inquire as to why such skills were not taught in the academy, however. It's an old bargain, one unique to Konoha. Kurenai sighed. As you all know, Konoha is unique amongst the Great Five in that we rely extensively on civilian support in order to free more shinobi for field work, so as a means of persuading the civilian clans that the then newly formed Konoha could be trusted, overall control of the academy curriculum was placed in the hands of the civilians. Since so many of them wanted access to the advantages that having a shinobi in the family brings, better contacts, access to the shinobi information exchange and so on, the standards were slowly lowered to give the civilian-born a better chance of graduating. Silent communication was one of the things jettisoned to make it easier to pass the test. The four genin stared at Kurenai for a long moment. And what else was removed? Natuto finally asked. Several parts of the history course, the camping jutsus known as the Traveling 10, physical conditioning lessons. Fortunately the teamwork aspect generally allows new genin to survive in the field long enough to find out their own weaknesses and find ways around them, or find people who have different weaknesses so that they can protect each other. I have no idea if that sucks or not. Kiba admitted. I'm not good with classwork, so if the academy has been made easier, would I have made genin in the old times? And where did your clones go? To study the book. Naruto supplied. As an independent genin, I really need to learn those things. Indeed. Kurenai nodded. Now, it is time for training. While we do basic warm-ups, I want you, Naruto, to use some clones to set up a trap course for my genin to work through. Nothing lethal, but be tricky. Naruto grinned, causing Kiba to shiver. Oh. Yee. Oh. Ah. Ah. Inazuka Tsum stared as her son lurched through the main gate of the Inazuka compound, groaning and complaining with each step. Irk. Arg. Ow-wow-wow. Eek. Arg. Kiba. Kiba paused as Akamaru caught up with him, twitching and trying to scratch all over. Hey mom. Don't let Naruto set up a trap course for you. Gotta wash. Ah. Itch. Itch. Tsum stared blankly as her son and his Ninken bolted for the bathhouse. What? Hinata tried not to squirm as she walked through the main gate of the Hyuga compound, but the small twitches she couldn't restrain gave away that some of the itching powder in the trap that Kiba had triggered had caught her. Daughter. Father. Hinata managed. Hayashi raised an eyebrow. You seem distracted. Kiba-san set off a trap in training. Itching powder. I almost dodged it. Hayashi's eyebrow rose higher. I was unaware that Kurenai was adept at traps. It was Naruto. Father, may I be excused? Hayashi nodded. Once you have washed, report to me. I would like an evaluation of Naruto's trap skills. Yes, father. Shino. Father. Shino replied calmly. Your hive seems more active than normal. I was caught in a trap triggered by my teammate, Kiba. a trap that covered us in itching powder. My Kikaichu found it very tasty. Ah! Naruto. One moment. Naruto called over his shoulder as he resealed the salvaged ninja wire in the storage scroll. Rolling the scroll up and storing it in his shoulder holster, he stepped out of the woods as the clone who had been helping him dispelled. Sorry, just tidying up. I didn't go too overboard, did I? No, but several of those traps were ones I've never seen before. Kurenai admitted. Well, now I can actually read, thanks to Hinata-chan. I send some clones to the libraries every day. Naruto admitted. I came across a copy of a book on traps written by Uchiha Madara. The man was a genius. The things he could do with a kunai and a piece of wire. I adapted a few of his traps for this exercise. And you did very well. Kurenai agreed, handing Naruto a small envelope. Naruto opened it, then froze. What? All genin team leaders have access to special funds for training purposes, such as hiring other genin or chunin to help. Kurenai explained. Since you set up the traps for their training and have been helping by providing an op force for them to train against, you get money to compensate you for your time. I know it's less than a D-rank mission, but every Rio helps, right? Naruto tucked the coupon into his pouch. Thanks, Kurenai-san. No, thank you. Kurenai replied. Ever since you let Hinata start helping you, she's become far more self-confident. Meh, Hinata-chan's totally awesome in her own right, believe it. Naruto grinned. I still have no clue how Sakura beat her to the Kunoichi of the Year position. How is she and the team getting on anyway? The team? Kurenai asked and Naruto slapped his forehead. Sorry. I meant Sasuke. With that Kakashi dude only teaching 2 of them, he must be teaching them loads, right? He was given a 3rd genin to make a full team. Kurenai supplied, causing Naruto to stare at her in confusion. Each Jonin sensei can ask for a specific pupil. And he asked for the Uchiha. Naruto said with a nod of understanding. No, he asked for you. Kurenai corrected, earning a stare of disbelief. That doesn't make any sense. Naruto groused. Why would he ask for me? Was I supposed to be Sasuke's eternal rival in order to boost his progress or something? Sakura's punching bag to help her with her taijutsu? Actually, it's because I knew your parents and thought I could repay the debt I owed them by taking you on. I apologize for not making that clear when we met. Kakashi said from behind Naruto, causing the genin to leap into the air in shock. Arg. Don't do that. Wait. You knew my parents? Who were they? Why hasn't anyone told me about them? Were they traitors? Kakashi almost sputtered at the last question. What? Traitors? No. Why would you even think that? 'Cause no one talks about them and people tell me I never had parents. Naruto shrugged. It made sense. They're wrong. Kakashi stated. Due to security concerns, I can't tell you their names, but your parents were both great ninja who loved each other greatly. Naruto listened eagerly, not noticing that Kurenai had left silently. You seem distracted today. Kosuke commented as he and Naruto slowly paced along the great wall surrounding Konoha. I found out that yesterday that I totally misread someone. Naruto sighed. I all but accused him of being a traitor like Mizuki team, but he was actually trying, in his own way, to look out for me. Yes, he totally got it wrong, but he's tried to make up for it since. Who? Kosuke asked curiously. Jonin Hatake Kakashi. He was kind enough to tell me about my parents. Minato and Kushina. Yes, they were wonderful people. Naruto froze. You know their names? He said he couldn't tell me due to security reasons. Kosuke winced. Damn, I'm getting too old. I wouldn't have made a mistake like that if I was younger. Naruto stood, staring into space. I have my parents' names. I can find out all about them, see if they left me anything. Naruto. Naruto's attention snapped back to Kosuke. Hi. Your parents had enemies. Kosuke said gently but firmly. Should you try to claim your inheritance, they will find out and they will send assassins to kill you in order to end your parents' clans forever. Your father in particular had many enemies who would like nothing better than to see the corpse of his son ripped apart and his head placed on a spike over the gate to their village. If you wish to research your parents, then make damned certain that no one, and I mean no one, can trace the research back to you. Don't go to the archives yourself, send clones using henge. Deploy the clones and have them hide for an hour or more before they head in so that no one links your actions to their arrival. Have the clones find somewhere secret to dispel since knowledge of your usage of Kage Bunshin is spreading. And above all, once you confirm your parents' clan names, tell no one unless you are in a truly private room with security seals in place. Having said all that, I think that when you find out exactly who they were, you will be inspired to train harder and better than ever before. Naruto nodded. Thanks, senpai. Now, since I've messed up enough for the day, we may as well discuss infiltration and interrogation techniques, also known as how to get information from others. Kosuke said, and Naruto grinned at how the old man was able to turn an honest error into a lesson. He was almost as cool as Gigi. Well, now that the D rank is done, it's time to train, and today's training will be different for you. Asuma smiled and Shikamaru frowned. You seem to be looking forwards to this too much. This means that whatever you have planned for us will be highly troublesome. Asuma's grin broadened and he stepped to one side, revealing a meter-tall scroll leaning against the tree behind him. This is your target, he said. In the scroll is your dinner. All you have to do is bring it here and unroll it on that table. Don't worry, I won't make a single move to stop you. The trio of genin glanced at the long table set up in the shade, then back at the scroll. The test will start in 10, 9, 8. Shikamaru frowned in thought as both Ino and Choji crouched, ready to run to the scroll. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Even as Asuma gave the command, a black-clad ninja dropped out of the tree, grabbed the scroll and sprinted off. Damn it! Shikamaru cursed as he dashed after his two teammates. I should have locked it into place with my shadow. What the hell? Ino screeched and Shikamaru looked up just as a dozen identically clad clones leapt on him. So, what did the real you want in exchange for this exercise instead of the usual payment? Asuma asked. Boss was wondering if you could help us find out his elemental affinity. The short ninja replied even as he pulled off his hood to let his blonde spiky hair wave in the breeze. I'll get you some chakra paper tomorrow. Asuma said, and the clone nodded, then twitched. Your genin have almost fought free of the first group. Shikamaru punched the last enemy, dispelling him in the now familiar cloud of smoke, and looked round. Where did he go? I don't know. Ino grumbled, trying to put her hair back into its normal ponytail. We have to find him. Choji panicked. That scroll contains all of our food. Shikamaru bent down and picked up a piece of paper by his feet. Clue 1. The four watch over, yet only one watches. Go where the hat would rest on stone. Beware the route up to the top, 'tis not safe to go alone. He read. What? Ino asked in disbelief. What the hell does that mean? The next clue is on the Hokage mountain. Shikamaru said. We'll probably have to fight another group of clones in order to find the next clue. What? Ino started, then she shook her head. Never mind, let's go. How long did it take Shikamaru to work out the problem? Asuma asked as he lit another cigarette. About 5 seconds. The clone laughed. Of course, he got the threat wrong. Ino staggered into the clearing, her clothing ripped, her skin blotched with bruises and various dyes. Choji and Shikamaru followed, both showing evidence of having been caught in traps, but nowhere near as much as Ino. Who the hell traps every single foot of the damn path? Ino howled. You two were useless. We kept telling you not to charge ahead. Shikamaru mumbled. What was that? Calm down, Ino. Choji said placatingly. I'm perfectly calm. Choji sidled backwards and Shikamaru sighed. Alright, everyone look round. The next clue should be on the Sandame's head. Oh, this should be fun. Of the 4 ways, you used the 4th when the 3rd would have carried you past. Shika read, ignoring Ino's snarls. The obvious way is not always correct. Clue 2. When leaving the village, this path you will take, but don't leave the leaf for that would be a mistake. Choji tilted his head slightly and Shikamaru sighed. Main gate. Ino stormed back down the path, then screamed as a noose wrapped round her ankle and hoisted her up into the air. I think we should find another way down. Shikamaru mused as Ino turned the air blue. It looks like the traps have been reset. The 4th way? Choji asked. It seems familiar. There are 4 ways to deal with any obstacle. Shikamaru recited. Over, under, around or through. Ah. Stop yammering and get me down. Asuma smirked as the tottering forms of his genin approached. All of them showed significant signs of having been forced to do more work than they were used to, and Shikamaru's jacket was still smoldering while Choji's bandana was ripped, letting his hair stick out in all directions with a small electrical spark occasionally jumping between them. The damn password is Uzumaki. Shikamaru growled and the scroll dropped out of the branches, landing on the table. Naruto, I'd like you to know that I really, really hate you right now. I hope you know that. You ruined my wardrobe. Ino tried to shriek, but her exhaustion prevented her from getting any real volume. Asuma glanced at her and his eyes widened at the sight of the rags tied together to form an impromptu pair of shorts and chest strap. Holy crap. Naruto gasped from beside him. You mean the trap with the 3 lemons and the paperclip actually worked? Madara really was a genius. Ino tried to charge forwards to rend Naruto into pieces, but collapsed on the grass before she could even cover a third of the distance. Looks like I've been slacking off. Asuma sighed. Naruto, I'll hire you again next week for another round, but remember to pop by tomorrow for the paper. Shikamaru gave his sensei a pained look, then slumped onto the ground. Before then, though, I think a finishing spar would be a good idea. All 3 genin of Team 10 glared at their sensei. Well, don't you look like the cat that ate the cream? Hey 8 called as Asuma walked into the Jonin bar. One of the new genin's gonna need a nickname. Asuma called back, catching everyone's attention. I just finished watching him give my team the runaround all round Konoha, then beating them all in a single spar. He's a real challenge as an antagonist. Uzumaki Naruto? Kurenai asked from where she was sitting with Enko, and Asuma nodded. I've hired him several times to provide opposition for my team. Since I trade training with him, and Hinata helps him with his reading skills, I don't really need to pay all that much for his help. How can one new genin take on a full team? A voice called. Asuma and Kurenai looked at each other and chorused the answer. Kage Bunshin. He can generate several hundred of them and keeps coming up with new tricks using them. Kurenai added. Yesterday, he had some henge into caltrops, then they transformed back and dogpiled my team when they were halfway across the field. He pulled a double kawarimi in the finishing spar I asked him to do. Asuma noted. He kawarimi'd away from Shikamaru's shadow technique, leaving a log in his place, then when Shikamaru turned away, he swapped back and took him down. Damn. One of the jonin whistled in awe. How the hell did none of us consider doing that before? I know what I'll be practicing tonight. Op Force. Enko said, and everyone looked at her in confusion. What? You two are hiring him to be just that. Op Force Uzumaki. Has a nice ring to it. Yosh! Guy shouted from the corner, causing several of the jonin to jump as they hadn't actually realized that he was there. Truly he is ablaze with the flames of youth. Tomorrow I shall hire him for my squad. You do know he does morning wall patrols, right? Asuma asked. Op Force and the Eternal Genin. Anko sniggered. Kids probably already learned more from Kosuke than he learned in his years at the academy. Now that he can actually read, yes. Kurenai agreed and almost half the jonin stared at her. Hold on. Asuma said slowly. What exactly do you mean, now that he can read? Kurenai looked round at the silent crowd. If he managed to pass when he couldn't read, Asuma continued, just how far have the academy standards dropped since we were genin? Naruto flopped onto his bed with a satisfied sigh and closed his eyes. His daily clone lessons with Hinata had gone very well, to the point that between his own determination and Hinata's memories of helping him learn, he was finally up to the educational level he should have been at. A sudden rush of memories flooded into his mind and he concentrated on sorting out the data accumulated by his research clones. A few seconds later, his bed was empty and his front door was swinging shut. And done. Hiruzen sighed as he passed the last stack of paper to his assistant. Well, I think that I've done enough for today. The assistant edged out of the room, being careful not to drop any of the sheets of paper, and Hiruzen slid open one of the drawers in his desk, pulling out an orange-covered book. Let's see, escaped the castle, in the cave, where is, aha. In the cave and Rai is helping Zuna to warm up, he. GG. The echoing shout gave Hiruzen just enough time to slam the book closed, drop it back in the drawer, slam the drawer shut and reposition himself to face the door a bare quarter-second before Naruto raced in. I wasn't aware that I had invited you to a sleepover. Hiruzen joked and Naruto glanced down at his pajamas. No time for joking. He panted. Gigi, this is real important, like, very important. As Naruto repeated the word important, he flashed 4 fingers at Hiruzen and shot a significant glance at the row of pictures on the wall, the row showing all 4 Hokages. Hiruzen paled and quickly channeled chakra into an otherwise insignificant portion of his desk. We're secure. He said, praying that his concern was misplaced. What is it? I've been having clones doing research for me and I've finished putting things together. Naruto said, leaning on the desk. When were you going to tell me that my old man was the yandame? Hiruzen stared at the young genin. Chapter 9. Revelations of a new genin. When were you going to tell me that my old man was the yandame? Hiruzen stared in shock at the young genin, then he gathered his wits. Tell me what you've worked out and what you think might be, but are unsure about. He commanded. First, my parents were Uzumaki Kushina and Yandame Hokage Namikaze Minato. Naruto stated. I've seen a picture of him at the academy, draw whiskers on him and he looks almost exactly like me. Since he had enemies that are still around, they would almost certainly try to kill me to get to him, even though he's dead. Second, they both died on the night that I was born and the Kyuubi attacked. Somehow, I doubt that it was a coincidence, but I don't know for sure. Third, something happened to the Kyuubi at the Valley of the End when Hiroshima and Mito faced off against it, something that kept it hidden until I was born. I can't help but think that my birth had something to do with it, but I can't make the connection, Kazan wasn't even alive back then. Fourth, the Kyuubi was sealed into me, how did Dad know it was possible to do that? Has it been done before? Hiruzen held up a hand to stem Naruto's rapid-fire statements and questions. You have most of the pieces. Hiruzen admitted. Your mother was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi before you, but she was the second one. Uzumaki Mito, the woman who became Hiroshima's wife, was the first. She transferred the burden to your mother when she was dying. The seal used on a female Jinchuriki to contain the Biju weakens when she gives birth, which is one of the reasons why your mother moved to a hideout outside the village walls when you were due to be born. We don't know what happened, but your parents died to reseal the Kyuubi, leaving only you and no witnesses. My wife was helping your mother, but she was killed by whoever or whatever caused your mother's seal to break. I had intended to tell you all of this when you either turned 16 or you reached the rank of Chunin, since either would hopefully mean you could learn it without instantly running off to shout out the news all over the village, alerting your father's enemies and getting killed as a result. Since you found most of it out, though. Hiruzen trailed off and Naruto nodded thoughtfully. Did they leave anything for me? Not as much as you might think. Hiruzen admitted. Kushina was the last of the Uzumaki from Uzushiogakure, and when it fell, all her family's wealth was lost, either destroyed in the attack or seized by the other villages. As for your father, well, the position of Hokage doesn't actually pay all that well, and his custom kunai were relatively expensive, especially with how many he used, so your father never amassed a large fortune. There are several technique scrolls from your parents, your mother's Fuinjutsu scrolls and a more eclectic collection that your father owned, but most of those were damaged in the Kyuubi's attack. Fortunately, there are those who know your father's two most famous moves, the Rasengan and the Hiraishin. Can I meet them? Naruto asked, and Hiruzen frowned. Those who know the Rasengan or those who know the Hiraishin? For now, the Hiraishin. Naruto decided after several seconds of deep thought. While learning Dad's attack jutsu would be cool, I think I should pay more attention to the technique that lets me escape to fight another day. Two of them are currently on a mission and it takes all three of them to perform the technique. Hiruzen said. I'm afraid you'll need to wait a couple of weeks to see it in action. Naruto nodded, then glanced at the clock and cursed. Kyuso. I really need to get some sleep, or I'll be late for my practice with Hinata-chan tomorrow, and I have a D-rank helping Team 9 after that. Practice? Is that what they're calling it now? Hiruzen chortled as he lowered the security seals. Damn it, Irojiji. Ah, Naruto. You have joined us. Naruto grinned nervously at Guy's bombastic greeting, then looked at the trio of genin staring at him. Tenten. Hi, Naruto. Tenten replied with a smile. Ah. So you know this paragon of youthfulness. Tenten rolled her eyes. Yeah, he came to Dad's to replace his old bright orange rags with something more suited to being a shinobi. He was with your cousin and her teacher, Niji. Niji glared at Naruto for a long moment before turning away. And the mini guy is Rock Lee. Tenten said with a wave of her hand. I am pleased to meet you. Naruto blinked, wondering if he should try a genjutsu dispel. So. Guy boomed. Now you are here, we can begin. We will finish our warm-ups while you set a series of traps on the route we agreed on, then I shall send my genin in to test their youthful prowess. While they are doing so, I shall help you find a taijutsu style of your own. Naruto nodded and summoned 24 clones. Alright, guys. You know what to do. Wosh. It's done. Naruto said as he re-entered the clearing. That was fast, barely 20 minutes. Guy said with a slight frown. Kage Bunshin. Ah, of course. The Jonin exclaimed, his face brightening. So, my students, your task is simple. Make your way from one safe point to the next until your route brings you back here. The safe points are marked by yellow ropes on the ground in the shape of a square. Naruto added. There's also an arrow in each one pointing to the next safe point. Sounds simple enough. Tenten said. Is that the first one there? Naruto nodded and Lee seemed to blur into the rope-marked area. I see the arrow. It goes down the path. As the other two ran to catch up, Lee vanished down the path, only for a twang to sound, followed by a yelp of surprise. Snare trap. Naruto shrugged at Guy's inquisitive look. I see. Guy mused, then he grinned. It will be educational for them. Now, let us see about building a proper foundation for your youthful fighting skills. Show me your stances. Naruto started to move through the kata as he had painstakingly learned under Ko's supervision, and Guy frowned. I see that you were taught badly at first, but someone, probably a Hyuga, has tried to help you correct it. Guy said. However, given your body shape, I believe I have a better style for you to learn. Son of a bitch. Niji cursed as the trap he had carefully triggered from a safe distance with a thrown kunai triggered no less than 3 other traps in turn, forcing him and his team to dodge out of the way of 3 logs, a spray of shuriken and 6 eggs. Niji blinked and grabbed one of the ovoids out of the air. Yep, an egg. Naruto-kun is most tricky with these traps. Lee exulted and he sprang back to his feet. Yeah, tell me about it. Tenten growled as she tried to brush the shattered egg out of her hair. It's like he knows all the standard ways to disarm traps and has set more traps against those methods. Then we shall have to use non-standard methods. Lee grinned as he stepped forwards, only for the path to cave in under his feet. Lee! Tenten shouted as she and Niji managed to grab the falling boy's arms and drag him back. For a long moment, the trio remained motionless, then Niji glanced over the edge of the pit and frowned. Who fills a trap pit with fish? What? Guy walked through the crowd of Narutos, correcting an occasional punch, altering the path of a palm strike or adjusting a stance. To one side, the real Naruto concentrated on the crunches, jumps and push-ups that he had been assigned. No. He said, stopping in front of one of the clones. You need to flow with this move, not clomp. Like this. The clone watched as Guy slowly moved through the 4-stage kata portion. Now try. I'm going to kill him. Niji panted, his normal reserve in abeyance as he knelt in the penultimate safe zone, his normally pristine appearance marred by innumerable stains, rips, tears and other less identifiable substances. He's tricky. Tenten gasped as she retied the sting holding her shredded top together. How is he so youthful in the art of traps? Lee asked, bouncing up and down as he prepared himself for the final stretch, ignoring the fact that he was missing an entire leg and sleeve from his spandex unitard while the torso resembled a net more than anything else, thus revealing that he wasn't wearing a vest underneath. I think I've seen him reading a book. Tenten mused as she rose to her feet. Something about traps by, who was it? Aha! Uchiha Madara. He was renowned for his trapping skills. Niji stated. There is a copy of his manual of traps in the Hyuga library, the only book in there that was written by an Uchiha. And the traps it shows? Tenten prompted. I have not read it. Niji admitted. But I will as soon as I get home. I will not let another day like this happen again. Then let's go. Lee shouted as he leapt forwards. Twang! Niji and Tenten shook their heads in disbelief as Lee bounced up and down, suspended by his ankle. Has he hit every snare trap we've come across? Tenten asked. Perhaps it is his fate. Tenten gave Niji a shocked look. Excellent. Guy declared as Naruto used the memories attained by his clones to flow smoothly through the first complete kata. You have done well, and it seems as though my youthful team has finished their training for today in the art of traps. Naruto turned and his eyes widened at the sight of the trio of bruised, battered and disheveled shinobi glaring at him. I think I'd better leave. Naruto said nervously as he saw Tenten's fingers twitching as if she was about to go for her kunai. Thanks for the lesson, Guy-sensei, bye. Guy blinked as Naruto sprinted off, then turned to his team. So, my youthful apprentices, he grinned, what lessons have you learned from this? Naruto needs to die. Niji ground out as Tenten nodded in agreement. Painfully. And slowly. That is not the lesson I was hoping for you to learn. Kosuka. Hiruzen. The genin replied as he sat down in front of the Hokage's desk. How goes Naruto's education? Kosuke blinked a couple of times, as if reordering his thoughts, before answering. The boy's an information sponge. I still have to dumb it down a bit, but nowhere near what his file says is needed. He also uses his clones to do research. All I have to do is mention a subject and he sends several clones to read up on it. Hiruzen nodded thoughtfully. I've been mainly covering the stuff the Academy doesn't teach. Kosuke continued. International politics and why they're important, nonverbal communication, the acquisition of information through various means, battlefield psychology. And I'm going to have to seriously hurt the Academy counselor for telling Naruto that he'd probably enjoy killing because he's a monster. I'll help. Hiruzen growled. Anyway, right now, Naruto could probably pass for Chunin in the non-physical aspects. I'm not certain about his physical skills, though. Mato Guy has begun teaching him a new style. Hyuga-ko occasionally drills him in the Academy style, the proper forms, and he spars with several of the teams. Hiruzen supplied, causing Kosuke's eyebrows to shoot up. Really? My Kohai is growing stronger, then. That's good. Hiruzen hid a smile at Kosuke's declaration. You know, there is a pile of mission requests for you building up. Kosuke shrugged. Give me the rest of the week on the wall and I'll start looking at them again. He's impressed you that much, has he? Hiruzen chuckled, then the amusement vanished. Any idea how he found out about who his parents were? Kosuke blinked as he carefully considered his answer. Well, he began, part of it is that I have, as I mentioned, been teaching him how to acquire information. Chapter 10. Discoveries of a new genin. It's been an honor, senpai. Naruto said with a bow, which Kosuke returned. You have been an excellent student. Kosuke replied. Were I not going on a mission to the north, I would be happy to continue your education. You have already taught me more than I learned in the academy. Naruto shrugged. I know I still have a long way to go, but I'm finally on the right path thanks to you. Sensei. Kosuke smiled broadly, his eyes glittering with unshed tears of pride. I believe that you will reach your goal, and I will be there to bow to you. Naruto tried to speak, but he couldn't force the words out past the sudden blockage in his throat. I will see you again sometime. Kohai. Kosuke smiled, then he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto stared at where he had been, then looked down. Huh? What's this? Picking up the scroll, Naruto unrolled it slightly, then he grinned. Instructions for Shunshin. Thanks, Kosuke-sensei. Hinata threw herself into an airborne roll just shy of being a full somersault in order to avoid being tackled by a trio of Narutos. Her mind tried to pull up images of what she could do with 3 Narutos, but she suppressed the distracting thoughts with the ease of long practice even as she spun on one shoulder, delivering juken strikes with her feet in order to clear some space. Bouncing back up, Hinata lashed out behind her, hearing the normal pop of a dissipating shadow clone. Getsuga. Kiba and Akamaru barreled through the attacking clones and Hinata pirouetted on the spot, allowing the duo to pass one either side of her so closely that her jacket rippled from the displaced air. Then she took advantage of the newly cleared path to sprint to where Shino was being overrun, taking out half of the clones mobbing him before they knew she was there. And done. At Kurenai's shout, the remaining clones vanished in clouds of chakra smoke, except for one which simply strolled to Kurenai's side. Stand down, students. Kurenai smiled and Hinata flopped into a sitting position, then she mentally winced as she saw Ko watching from the sidelines. No doubt her lack of grace would be reported to the Hyuga Council. 12 minutes to destroy 100 attacking clones. Kurenai said approvingly as Kiba threw himself to the ground, panting for breath. Now, what went wrong? My taijutsu skills, although I am technically proficient in their katas, seem insufficient to situations such as this. Shino admitted. The problem is that your taijutsu skills are too perfect. Kurenai said, earning a confused tilt of the head. You do each move perfectly, in its entirety, before moving on to the next move. You need to learn to flow from one move to the next so that the end of one move should overlap with the start of the next. I see. Shino mused. I shall endeavor to correct that problem. Kiba, that last big attack of yours and Akamaru's almost hit Hinata. Kurenai continued. However, you managed to bracket her perfectly. Was it intentional? Shit, I almost hit Hinata. Kiba gasped. Sorry, I thought you were somewhere else. Situational awareness in combat. Kurenai said slowly. I see that we'll have to work on that. We had a few spare clones ready to switch if it looked like anyone was about to get seriously injured. The clone interjected. One of us was about to swap with Hinata until she did that awesome dance-like move between Kiba and Akamaru. Hinata blushed in pleasure at Naruto's comment. A sudden burst of chakra shocked the genin to their feet as Naruto appeared in the middle of the clearing, 7 feet above the ground. Yihuhua. Naruto managed to turn his uncontrolled fall into a tumbling roll which would have ended with him back on his feet, if Hinata hadn't been in the way. Oof. Hinata opened her eyes to find Naruto staring at her in worry from inches away. Hinata-chan, are you alright? I'm sorry. Ahem. Naruto almost levitated off Hinata as Ko coughed dramatically from just behind them. Hinata spared an instant to give a quick glare to a sniggering Kiba and smirking Kurenai before she held out her hand for Naruto. Taking his cue, he pulled her to her feet. Sorry, I was practicing the Shunshin and, well. I've almost got it. Not quite, boss. The clone called. See for yourself. The clone dispelled and Naruto managed to both pale and blush at the same time as he received the memory of his failure. Sorry, Hinata-chan. He said with a slight wince. I hope I didn't hurt you. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. Hinata smiled back at him. What book are we working through today? Ko lifted an eyebrow as Naruto brandished a medical text. Basic primer for battlefield medicine. With my reserves, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to become a medic but battlefield medicine, herbs, bandaging, setting bones and stuff, that I can learn and it'll really help on missions outside Konoha. Several of the Hyuga clan have chosen the path of the Irionin. Ko commented. Our eyes give us a considerable advantage. I'm ready. Hinata said, and before Ko could protest, she hugged Naruto, then a cloud of chakra smoke announced the formation of 2 clones, one of whom was Hinata. That felt weird. Naruto mused as he looked at Hinata. I've been using Juken for the last hour. Hinata explained. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push like that. Shouldn't make any difference. Naruto mused. Hey, you two still us? I mean, are you, me and are you Hinata? I'm your clone, boss. The male clone announced while the female clone blushed slightly and poked her forefingers together. Yep, that's Haim-sama. See, no problems. Naruto shrugged. Now, I can give you some more clones, but then I've got another mission, with Team 7 this time. Huh, you know, this'll be the first time I've seen the TEA. I mean Sasuke and Sakura since the test. Huh, I wonder who the replacement for me is? Tobio. Naruto. The dark-haired genin waved. Hey, listen. I never got to say sorry for accidentally causing you and Sasuke to. That never happened. Both male genin roared, causing Tobi to cringe, then they glanced at each other in surprise while Sakura started to giggle. I thought you were in a different team. Naruto asked, hoping to redirect the conversation, and Tobio shrugged. I was assigned to Team 3 with Reidamaru and Kanoku. We were given a test and the other two decided to squabble over who would do it better. I managed to do some of the test, but I couldn't do it all since the other two didn't help. Apparently that's why I was given a second chance on Team 7, because I was willing to try to work as part of a team. Wow, nice one. Naruto grinned, exchanging a high five with his former classmate. "Why are you here, Naruto?" Sakura asked. "And why are you still wearing a hitayate? Didn't you go back to the academy?" "He's an independent genin," Sasuke supplied before Naruto could answer, and Sakura stared at him in confused shock. "What? After that fiasco of a test, I checked the Uchiha archives and discovered the difference between an academy-promoted genin and a mission-promoted genin. So, am I correct in assuming that you're the opposition for this afternoon's training?" "Yep, you're going up against Op Force Uzumaki," Kakashi said from behind them, causing all four genin to jump in shock. "Now, if you'll excuse us, I need to discuss the situations we'll be setting you up against." The trio stared in shock as Kakashi, who was early, vanished with the blonde genin. "What just happened?" Sakura finally asked. "Lord Hokage told me you found out about your parents," Kakashi said as they reappeared amongst the trees. "The fourth, your sensei," Naruto replied quietly. "And his wife, who was the second to bear the burden I now have. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." Kakashi sighed. "I wasn't in a good place mentally after Sensei died. It took me several years to get myself back together. By that time, the other villages were keeping an eye on me since they thought that if Sensei had an heir, I would be the one to act as guardian. So you stayed away to keep me safe," Naruto finished. "And trying to get me on your team? To try to protect you and repay the debt I owed your parents," Kakashi confirmed. "I knew I'd be assigned Sasuke, so I thought that the other villages would assume you were merely there to bulk out the team, not because of your heritage." Naruto nodded. "I understand, Hataki-san. I do have two quick questions before we start planning what to do to your team. Do you know the Rasengan? And what about the Hiraishin?" Kakashi held up his right hand, in which a sparkling sphere of chakra was spinning. "This is the Rasengan, taught to me by your father. As for the Hiraishin, I was going to learn it, but the Kyuubi." Kakashi trailed off and Naruto nodded. "That bastard fox screwed up so many things when it attacked." "Yeah." For a long moment, the duo remained in silent contemplation of what could have been. "We are going to do 3 scenarios, one after the other," Kakashi told his team as he unrolled a topographical map of Konoha and the surrounding environs. Scenario 1 is attacking a bandit camp with 30 bandits, some of whom may have had training equal to a new genin. You will be rescuing a hostage, me. Scenario 2 is protecting me as you get me to a secure location. I will not be moving faster than a civilian, nor will I defend myself beyond basic dodging, so you'll have to protect me for the journey from the camp here to the way station here. Expect up to 20 bandits for this. Scenario 3 is repelling an assault by a third group of bandits until reinforcements can arrive. For that one, I will be acting in my capacity as your Jonin sensei with a dummy taking the role of rescued civilian. The dummy has several bags of red-dyed water inside it representing its brains, heart, lungs, and gut. If any of those bags get stabbed, the scenario ends as a fail. Now, this is a map of the camp and I'll be in the open, in a wooden cage just here. There'll be guards here, here and here with orders to terminate me if there's a rescue attempt, so you'll need to move fast. Other than that, how you do it is up to you. See you when you rescue me." Kakashi vanished and Sakura moved to the place where he had been, looking closely at the lines of the map. "There's a ridge behind the camp here," she pointed out. "If we take it and use kunai to nail the guards, we can then descend using a rope. We'll have to be careful," Sasuke interjected. "I've heard nasty things about Naruto's trapping skills. He's probably got all of the primary approaches trapped, so we'll have to do what he doesn't expect, like circle round rather than head straight there." Tobio and Sakura both nodded in agreement. Naruto smirked as the trio set out for the first stage, then his eyes narrowed in appreciation as they took a side path, one of the few that he hadn't trapped. "Now, how did you know to do that?" he whispered as he started to rise, then he paused as 2 streams of memories flowed into his mind. I'm going to have to devote a lot of attention to learning those terms. I didn't even know what a gallbladder was, heck, I didn't even know it existed. Naruto closed his eyes as he concentrated on settling the memories correctly into his mind, then he reopened them. Time to move out. Hinata's eyes stared slightlessly as not one, but two memory streams flowed into her mind. Hinata-sama? Ko asked quietly as Hinata paled, then blushed furiously. He thinks I'm really pretty. Hinata whispered, wavering slightly as her mind repeatedly replayed the memory from Naruto's clone of him stealing glances at her. He admires me. Ko managed to catch the Hyuga heiress as she collapsed, a huge smile spread across her face.